want to highlight another area of agreement, actually, and it's an area of disagreement with some on my side of the aisle, and I think an area of agreement I have with virtually everyone in the majority party. And that is that we should very well make those pension payments this year. I completely agree. That is a promise we made several years ago when we reformed the pension system. We knew exactly how much money that was going to cost. We could project that. And here we are in fiscal 15, and we should make those payments. It's the right thing to do for the pensioners. It's the right thing to do for the people who work hard for the state of New Jersey. And they deserve as much for us to follow through on our commitment. It's the right thing to do for taxpayers, too. As the chairman of the Budget Committee pointed out, not making those pension payments today will cost us much more down the road. And it's not far down the road, just a few years down the road. The substantial increase in cost that we will face for not making these payments is something that I don't think is appropriate. I think we need to prioritize those pension payments, and they should be in the fiscal year 2015 budget. I agree with all of you. There are some areas of disagreement, however, and it might not surprise you, and that's why I'll be opposing the budget. Primarily the tax increases that the majority party has proposed. We talked about it before. We'll talk about it some more, but when you tax an additional $1.6 billion on people who already believe that they're overtaxed, I think you're going to destroy jobs and destroy hope for people in this state. We can't afford not to make those pension payments, but we can't afford $1.6 billion in new taxes. And let's be clear about this. 8 years before Governor Christie came in, the majority party controlled the legislature and the governorship and raised taxes 115 times and had no problem skipping pension payments when they did that. Those tax increases went to be spent not to pay for pensions, and to say now that the only reason taxes are being increased are to fund the pensions rings a little hollow with my constituents and the people of the state of New Jersey. I disagree also because fundamentally we're not making serious spending cuts that I think are called for to pay for those pension payments that we should and have to make. And I think, Mr. Speaker, that a false choice has been set up in Trenton this year. A false choice between making pension payments that we should be making and holding the line on taxes for the most overtaxed people in the nation. Cutting spending is an option, and I don't think it's been explored. Now, it wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't necessarily be fun, but according to some press reports that I've read, there's some bipartisan support for the concept of budget cuts this year, and I wish we could have had that discussion more seriously. As I understand it, between the governor's budget proposal, which pays into the pension system about $681 million, and the full actuarial payment is, I think, about $2.2 billion. You can correct me, Chairman, but that's the ballpark. It's about $1.5 billion gap in a $32.5 billion budget, which is what this would be without your tax increases. That's about 5%. Shame on us if we can't find 5% in a $32.5 billion budget to fund the high priority of making pension payments. Again, it wouldn't necessarily be pretty. It wouldn't necessarily be fun. But that's what the people of the state of New Jersey expect us to do. That's what our citizens and our constituents do around the kitchen table every night. They look at their income. They look at their expenses. If their expenses exceed their income, they don't have a magic money tree out in the backyard where they go pull down some dollar bills off the tree. And they don't have 8.9 million people to go tax. They cut their expenses. And they can't understand why we can't cut our expenses too. Let's think back just a few years to 2010. Governor Christie's first budget, he cut those $2.2 billion in about 4 months, which he had to do. And then we had to pass a fiscal year 2011 budget. That budget came in at about $29.2 billion. It was less than the year before, and it was far less, about $3 or $4 billion less than I think it was the fiscal 2008 budget that Governor Corzine had given us. We cut spending back there, and there was some hue and cry, mostly from the majority party, I think entirely from the majority party, about how the sky was going to fall, that we couldn't possibly survive after you cut this or you cut that, or you reduce this, or not even cut, but just hold spending flat over a year, or reduce the growth in spending increases. The sky was going to fall. The sky was going to fall. How could the state of New Jersey survive after we reduced spending year over year? You know what? The sky didn't fall. And as a matter of fact, as we discussed earlier, revenue has grown over the last 4 years. And as a matter of fact, you look at some polling data, and it'll tell you that the people of the state of New Jersey have never been prouder or felt better about their state than after we made the spending cuts we had to make to get our budget balanced and to get our fiscal house in order. And so here we are 4 years later, and without raising taxes, in fact, by cutting taxes, we have more than $3 billion additional to spend over 2010. More than a 10% increase in revenue. And our constituents look at us and say, how can you get 10% more money, a 10% increase in your revenues, and not get the job done? How can you start from zero? If we have zero-based budgeting in this state, how can you start at zero, count to $32.5 billion, and not meet our basic obligations here to our employees, and to our pensioners, and to our taxpayers? They don't get it, and neither do I. I think we have bipartisan support to make some of the tough decisions we have to make and spare our constituents the tax increases that you passed earlier today. Let's remember why we go through this exercise, Mr. Speaker, and remind ourselves every time we go through this process. It's not about numbers on a page. It's not about the green eye shades coming out and deriving some satisfaction because at the end of the day our expenses meet our revenues, or that we're fulfilling our constitutional obligations, although we obviously have to do that. The budget process and these fundamentals are about the people that we serve. We have one of the greatest states in the nation. Our people are resilient and hardworking and highly educated and tough. We have wonderful natural resources available to us, located between two wonderful cities, major ports, international airports, an education system second to none, a transportation system, while it needs some work, that is an advantage over virtually every other state in the Union. Frankly, it's hard to screw up New Jersey. And the only thing that can stop the people of the state of New Jersey are the people in this House. That's why what we do with this budget is so important, Mr. Speaker. What we have to do is set our fundamentals, create the conditions for prosperity and success for the people of the state of New Jersey, and then get out of the way. And when you raise taxes $1.6 billion, when you refuse to cut spending so that we can meet our priorities, when you refuse to reform a pension system that will bankrupt us or our children, you're holding back the people of the state of New Jersey. They deserve a better budget than this. They deserve spending cuts, not tax increases. And that's why I oppose the budget.